go and I start working, I sort of tell one of my friends, hey, if the boss asks you if my daughter's sick, she is. And I start spreading this little story here because I am trying to cover up my inconsistency, and I don't want to live with the consequences. When that happens, things get very, very complicated. So, there is such a thing as a scapegoat, a person that you choose to blame because you do not want to live with the consequences of your action. But the problem with a scapegoat, and I'm going to create a word right now, the problem with a scapegoat is every scapegoat requires a scape story. Every scapegoat requires a scape story. What do I mean? As soon as I blame someone else, I have to create a story of why that person is wrong. Now, here's what I did, but here's the story, and this is what I want this group of people to believe. And so I have to tell this story here because I'm hiding this over here. And then I have a little story that I create over here because I'm hiding this here. And now when I see you, I have to remember, well, did I tell you this story, or did I tell you that story? Or did I tell you this story, or, well, I didn't want you to know this story. And so I end up managing all sorts of stories in my life, and what that means is you are not allowed to really see who I am. You're not. Because if you see who I really am, then you won't like me, and so I can't show you who I really am because, and it always goes back to the same thing, because I was not consistent, because I was not self-control. Self-control creates consistency. Consistency gives you the ability to say, go ahead and look at my life. I am not ashamed because what I say is what I do. And because I do that, go ahead and take a look. I feel good about you hearing the real story. And that gives us the opportunity to be transparent. There is a word in English that comes also from Latin, and the word is sincere. And sincere has a very interesting origin to it. In Latin, the word is formed by two words. It is sin and chara. Cinchara. Chara is the word for wax, and sin in Latin is the word without. Without wax is the idea of sincere. How does this work? Well, a long time ago, something that was very important would be different vessels that are made out of pottery, and you would put important things in the vessels. But because of the process of making these vessels, because you have to put it in an oven that is very, very hot, sometimes in that process a small little crack develops inside of the vessel. And when the crack develops there, the vessel is ruined. But because you worked so hard on it, it would be a shame not to sell it. And so people learned that you could take a little bit of wax and you could color the wax and you could put it right there in the little crack, and from the outside the vessel would look like it's just fine. But in the marketplace, if you would take that vessel and if you would hold it up to the sun, and if you saw a little line of light through it, then people would put that vessel down and they would say, oh, that's with wax. That's with wax. I don't want that one. And then they would grab another one and they would look it up there and they go, oh, well, this one is without wax. Cinchara. I want this one. There's no hidden lines of brokenness. The only way for us to have that is for us to work on consistency. And consistency is connected with self-control. And what self-control does is it builds trust. It creates a sense of inner peace. The inner peace is there because I don't have multiple stories that I'm working on. And it provides the courage needed to speak to the unethical behavior in other people. It's all based on self-control. Next word is adaptability, also based on self-control. There is a very famous Eastern European, very wealthy today, Andrew Grove, who is the man who stands behind the Intel company. A lot of you enjoy Andrew Grove's work because they create some of the very best microprocessors that can be purchased. And some people look at Andrew Grove and all of the money that he has and the company, and they go, wow, I wish I was like Andrew Grove. It's an easy thing to say. Let's talk about Andrew Grove's story. When Andrew Grove became the leader of the Intel company, it did not make microprocessors. It was not making that at all. Intel at that time was making memory chips. That's the RAM that we talked about yesterday. And the problem that Intel had is when Andrew Grove became the CEO of the company, Asia woke up. And Asia started to produce in Taiwan and China memory chips far cheaper than Intel could produce them at any of their factories. And so what happened to their market? Well, people could buy the same product for less if you bought it from Asia, and so the Intel stock and market value started going like this. And what happened to the people inside the company when they saw that Intel was going like this? There were a lot of people in the company that said, goodbye, I'm leaving. I'm not staying for this. This isn't going well. And their best people were leaving the company fast before the company exploded. Would you like to be the CEO of the company when the whole company is going like this and people are leaving as fast as they can? That was the world of Andrew Grove. And here's what Andrew Grove said, who completely changed the company. He said that the secret of a company's future success is how upper-level leadership manages its emotions. I want to repeat that. The secret of a company's success is how upper-level leadership manages its emotions. And this is what Andrew Grove did. He got his upper-level leadership together, and he said, we are not talking about how bad it is. We are not talking about the inevitable failure that is going to happen. We are here to talk about what is our greatest strength. And we will find our greatest strength, and we will use our greatest strength to remake this company into something that is better than it ever was before. We are going to push back those emotions, and we will find our greatest strength. And it was during those discussions that they were able to decide that their technological advanced concepts would give them the ability to create microprocessors better than anyone on the planet, and they became the largest microprocess company in the world for some time. That happened because Andrew Grove was able to manage the emotions that he had. It required self-control. So adaptability is connected to the ability to assess a difficult situation and to effectively handle our emotions in that situation. And when we are doing that, because our emotions are not becoming dictators for us, then we can identify and find the right solutions. But if we do not have self-control, we will not find the choices that we need for the solutions that will solve the problem. Andrew Grove focused on self-control. Initiative is connected with the same thing. Initiative. What is initiative? I would say that initiative is the ability to overcome fear and inertia. It involves at least that. And here's a principle in life that I think is normally true. Everything that is easy has already been done. The only things that remain to do that are significant, they're all hard. If something was easy, somebody else would have already done it. It's the things that are difficult that are waiting for somebody else to come along and to help. And because they're difficult, there is fear and there is inertia. But initiative works against fear and inertia, and it is the courage to stand firm for what is right, and the ability to take the first action step and to persevere as you go forward. So I'd like to give you an illustration of emotions and initiative. Some of you might have seen this movie. I enjoyed this movie. It came out several years ago. And when this movie came out, I heard about something that was going on in the United States that I liked a lot. In the United States, they were giving away free tickets to see this movie to anyone who was involved in education of students from the grades, first grade through high school. Free tickets. And there were thousands and thousands of teachers in the education system that were going to the cinema to have a special premiere of this free. And I thought, wow, that is such a great idea. It's a great idea because the message of this film is a significant message for our society. And I thought, you know, I haven't heard about that initiative here in Europe at all. That's bad. Why do it in America and not do it here? And so I figured out I'd find out why it wasn't happening in Europe. And so I went on the internet and I found the telephone number for Walt Disney. And I called Walt Disney. Now, you can imagine that getting ready for this phone call, I realized I'm going to sound a little bit strange. So this is my phone call with Walt Disney. Hello, my name is David Ginn, and I'm calling you from Budapest, Hungary. And I would like to learn more about the strategy of free tickets for educators because I would like to see that program happen in Europe. Now, the first person who got my phone call, did they have any idea what to do with me? No idea. What this is so strange. Can I talk with your boss? I would really like to talk with your boss. Yeah, you can call back in 2 hours. Hello, this is David Ginn from Budapest. I understand that there's a strategy in America that's giving free tickets away to teachers in high schools and other schools, and I'd like to do that here in Europe. Yeah, I think I've heard of that strategy, but I don't really know anything. Here's another number. Would you call this person? Yeah. Hello, my name is David Ginn. I'm calling you from Budapest, and I'd like to talk about this. Oh, yeah, we're doing that strategy here in America. Good, I'm talking with the right person. Yeah, so you would like to do that in Europe? Wow, never thought about that. Yeah, I have no idea who you're supposed to call. Oh, well, could you give me the phone number of your boss? Yeah. Hello, this is David Ginn from Budapest. I'd like to talk about free tickets for the teachers. Oh, yeah, I heard you called. You know, it is a great idea. We would like to see that happen in Europe, but you need to understand, we don't control that strategy. That strategy was given to our advertising agency called Emotive Entertainment, and they are driving that strategy. Would you like their number? Yes, I'd like their number. I call Emotive Entertainment. Hello, this is David Ginn from Budapest. I'm calling about the free tickets for Oh, Europe? Wow, that is a good idea, sir. I have no idea who. Can I talk with your boss? He's gone for 2 days. Can I call him in 2 days? Yes. I call him up. Hello, this is David Ginn from Budapest. Can you help? Well, no, I can't help you, but our office in London is responsible for this project in Europe. Here's the office in London. Okay, now I'm calling London. Hello. This is David Ginn from Budapest. And I'd like to talk with you about the strategy that, I've never heard of that strategy in America. What is it? Unbelievable. Well, I actually heard from your parent company, Emotive Entertainment, that they would like for this to happen. Is there anyone I can talk with? Well, you can call back tomorrow and you can talk with Mr. Bonnet, Christian Bonnet. Okay. I call Christian Bonnet the following day. Hello, this is David Ginn from Budapest, and I would like to talk with you about free tickets for educators in Europe. And Mr. Christian Bonnet said, I have been waiting for you to call. Why have you been waiting for me to call? Well, we've talked about this strategy. But one thing is true about this strategy. This is a volunteer-based strategy. We cannot drive this strategy, but David Ginn from Budapest, people like you can drive this strategy. And I thought, yeah, that's right, people like me can drive this strategy. He said, how many countries do you want to do this in? All of them? He says, well, look, you give me a list of names of people who are representatives from countries in Europe, and I will tell the people that I work with that they must work with the contact list that you give me. They must do it. And as a result of that, in Poland, in Ukraine, I believe here, in Romania, and in Moldova, and in Germany, Walt Disney and Emotive Entertainment was giving away more than 35,000 euros worth of tickets to educators all throughout Europe because I didn't stop. Now, can you guess what kind of emotions I was feeling in that process? What do you think I was feeling?
Frustration.
I was frustrated. Yeah. What else?
Irritation.
You don't even know about this strategy? You must be new. Yeah? What else?
Impatient.
I was very impatient. I gave up twice, and my friend said, keep trying. Okay. I was disappointed, and I was tired. And if any of those emotions had stopped me, it all would have stopped. Initiative is about pressing ahead when emotions are difficult, because anything that's easy has already been done. And the things that are worthwhile that have not yet been done, they're going to require emotional control and self-control. I'd like to share a different story on the same topic that comes from Levi Strauss. Amazing initiative in this country, in this company. Levi Strauss was having a great day in Europe, selling all sorts of clothes, making all sorts of money, and all of a sudden they heard about an article that was written in a newspaper in London. And that article accused Levi Strauss of employing child labor in order to make their clothes. Well, the upper level management, they said, well, this is just terrible, it's false. Now, you tell that newspaper to retract that article. And the people in Levi Strauss said, well, actually, boss, what they said is true. In our companies that are in Taiwan and in Vietnam and in India, we actually do employ children to help make our clothes. And so the story's true. Wow. And now this article is being circulated through Europe that you shouldn't buy Levi Strauss clothes because their clothes are made by child labor. And now Levi Strauss is starting to lose money like this. So what do you do if you're Levi Strauss? Well, the upper level leadership, they said, hey, fire all those kids and hire a bunch of new people. And what they heard back from Vietnam and from India and other places was, well, we can do that, but there's something that you have to understand if we do that. You need to understand that life here is very, very poor, and if we fire these children, we believe that a high percentage of them will enter into prostitution because they must make money for their families. So we're willing to fire these children, but you need to understand, if we do, we think that many of them will get involved in prostitution. Well, did you want to hear that if you're responsible for Levi Strauss? So they have their directors board that are talking about how they're going to solve this problem, and now they have two problems. If we don't fire them, we're going to lose money. If we do fire them, what's going to happen in their lives is going to be terrible. What do you do? And Levi Strauss chose a conclusion that I find to be amazing. Levi Strauss did this. They went to those children and they signed contracts with the children that said this: we will pay you to go to school through high school if you promise at the end of that you will come back and work with us for at least this many years. And the children signed those contracts. They went to high school, and Levi Strauss received an educated workforce after high school. Do you find that to be amazing? The emotions that Levi Strauss felt at that time were emotions that could have led to a stupid decision. They could have said, there's only one thing to do, and that's to fire them. And they said, no, let's think about this. And they came up with new options. Now, when we saw that they came up with new options, They did something that we admire and is noble, and I will show you why we admire it and it's noble. Our time together has been focusing on emotional intelligence. And what is true is that there are some things that are deeper than emotional intelligence that Levi Strauss demonstrates for us. And here's what's deeper. Deeper than your emotional intelligence is the character of who you are. Of course that's deeper. Who you are is more important than what you do. Very, very deep. But there's something that goes even deeper than that. Deeper than that are things that you believe and values that you hold. That is extremely deep. Now, if Levi Strauss basically had as their value, the only thing that's important in this life is money, do you know what decision they would have made? They would have fired the kids and said, not my problem, not my problem. But because Levi Strauss had a value of the quality of human life, they said, you know what? We're not going to take the easy decision. We're going to take a harder decision because of something that we value. And that's why I tell stories about Levi Strauss, and I don't tell stories about other companies. Because Levi Strauss has a group of beliefs and values that are more noble than the others, and therefore they are worth respecting more than others. And the initiative that they took was absolutely amazing. I will end with this idea. There is an interesting connection that exists between classical stories and what we're talking about in emotional intelligence. And the first thing I need to do is I need to define what is a classical story. A classic story is a story that will last all of time. It will go across all cultures, and everyone will enjoy it because what it talks about is essential to who people are. That's what makes a story classic. And there are some classical stories, and as I analyze classical stories, I find that a vast majority of them all revolve around the same topic of self-control. Let's see what you think about this topic. Alexandre Dumas, in 1844 in France, wrote a very famous work, and that work is called The Count of Monte Cristo. Some of you have also enjoyed the movie. What is the connection between self-control and this classical story of The Count of Monte Cristo? Does anyone know?
Well, all of it basically.
The Count of Monte Cristo worked on his self-control in prison, and he developed himself greatly. Yes. And?
Then he planned.
That he planned?
How to, not to revenge, but to take revenge on the person who don't want this one.
The whole story starts when this person who becomes the Count of Monte Cristo has a friend who does not have self-control, who wants his friend's girlfriend. And because he cannot control himself, what he does is he creates a terrible life for the Count of Monte Cristo, and he sends him to prison because he cannot control himself. In prison, the Count of Monte Cristo becomes extremely self-controlled in order to have vengeance on all of his friends. And the truth is that vengeance is such a powerful force in the life of the Count of Monte Cristo that he almost destroys his own life because he's having a hard time controlling himself due to all of his desire for vengeance. Classical story has to deal about self-control. In 1812, a few brothers by the name of Grimm in Germany did not write this story. They collected this story in a group of stories, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is a story that is all about self-control. The story starts when there is this witch who cannot control her emotions because most of the days in her life she went and she looked at this mirror and she said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?" And year by year and day by day the mirror said, "You are!" And she's like, "Great, I'm feeling good." But one day she asked the question that she always asked, and it said, "You're not the fairest anymore. It's Snow White." And she said, "What? What? This is impossible. I can't live not embarrassed, and so the whole story starts with, I don't know if this story will ever become a classic, but this is a story that has everything to do with self-control. He's looking pretty good at the beginning. He has all sorts of capacity, but his anger and his rage cannot be controlled at a very important point. And because that happens, the rest of the story follows because of an inability to work with self-control in a very, very difficult situation. So much of life is attached to self-control, and here's the big idea that I want you to try to remember. There's an interesting group of words that are all attached. The words are self-control, and adaptability, and transparency, and initiative, and even optimism. We didn't have time to talk about that. And all of those things are connected with self-control. And to grow in adaptability and in optimism and in initiative requires that I spend some time on self-control, which requires that I look at these emotions that become little dictators in my life, which requires that I learn to anticipate better the emotions that I will have, because if I do not anticipate them, they will hit me like a truck, and the way that I will react is not the way that I want to. So much of good in life is attached to this idea of self-control, and our emotions are a very important part.